That the coronavirus itself will not harm anyone unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows it to. And that the vaccination itself will not protect anyone unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows it to. And so the spiritual element is to have this deep-rooted understanding of who is in control of our affairs, and to then reconnect to Allah and to always rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our protection, for our safety. The second element, the cognitive element. When faced with any information, we should be able to critique. We should be able to use our intellects, our reason. We are millat al-Quran. We are the people of the Quran. If you have read the Quran and you have not come away with the understanding that the Quran teaches us, encourages, rather commands us to use our intellects and our minds, then I ask you to go back and read the Quran. So many ayat are about thinking. أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ يَتَدَبَّرُونَ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ يُبْصِرُونَ يَفْقَهُونَ. Will they not think, reflect, use their minds, their intellect, reason? Ayah after ayah. The Quran says explicitly, قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Bring your evidence if you're truthful. The Quran is endorsing an evidence-based approach. And it was this approach which led to the generations of Muslims that flourished. And it was these generations that laid the groundwork for what came to be known in the West as the Renaissance, and then the Enlightenment and the scientific revolution. What is the scientific methodology? The scientific methodology is evidence-based practice. It's what the Quran is teaching. The methodology in science is that you have a hypothesis, a theory. You test the theory, and then you analyze it. You evaluate the results. You critique. You share with your peers. You publish, you present, then peers critique it back, and you go back to the start of the test and go through the whole rigorous analysis over and over again. This is the scientific methodology. It's evidence-based practice. This isn't to say that we cannot critique scientific discoveries. In fact, within the scientific methodology, it's asking, critique us. Give your critique. But there's a process of which to critique. And in particular, in relevance to our situation in our day and age, brothers and sisters, the important point here is how we then critique. A lot of us with social media, information can be spread from one end of the globe to another at a click of a button. And within hours, extracts and articles and videos are spread like wildfire. Within WhatsApp groups where half the people, you don't even know who they are. You don't know who's receiving that information. And it's well intended, no doubt. I'm sure someone's seen a video, they like what it says and what is explained, and they want to share this information with people. But there's a process of doing so. And we're told this process within the Quran. وَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. If you've got something related to, in this context, the coronavirus, go and seek advice from a medical specialist. Just get their opinion before it's spread on the group. Because that medical professional will then give you their take on it, based on their years of experience, based on their years in the profession and the wider context that they can understand of it. And this applies to lots of information that is spread. And so, وَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. And as I say, it does not mean that we cannot critique scientific discoveries. It does not mean that we cannot critique authorities. No critique, but go through the process in doing so. And the final element, the third element, is the practical element. Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. And then when you have made your decision, then act and place your trust in Allah. After you've gone through the due process, okay, take a decision now and act. Leave the rest to Allah. We are a nation of Emaan and Amal, of faith and action, of ilm, knowledge, followed by action. We're not simply those of the first element, the spiritual element, where we say, oh, Allah's in control, we'll do nothing, we'll just sit back. And we are not those simply and solely of the second element, the cognitive, where we think and we intellectualize and we philosophize and then do nothing about it. We are all three elements holistically combined together: the faith-based, spiritual, the cognitive, intellectual, and the action-based, practical. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah, wa ma tawfiqi wa la i'tisami wa la thiqati illa billah al-ali al-azim. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Amma ba'd. So to summarize what we've discussed so far, we've talked about three elements in coming to a decision. Really, this is a general Islamic approach when coming to any decision, to keep that faith-based spiritual aspect in mind, the cognitive due process, and then to take the practical action itself. What of the vaccine then? Let's bring it back to the original question: to vaccinate or not to vaccinate? Brothers and sisters, there's a very well-known understanding within the medical field that for any medication, for any treatment that you are given, be it paracetamol, be it antibiotics, there is a risk-based assessment. And so to share from a medical perspective with COVID itself, we have on the one side coronavirus, which we have seen to have led to the loss of lives. And if it's not the loss of lives, it is serious hospitalization. And if it is not serious hospitalization, it is significant illness, potentially which has long-lasting effects, which we are still researching and don't know the full extent to. And the people most affected by this are those who are vulnerable, with certain underlying medical conditions, high risk. On the other side of the risk, the balancing act, we have the vaccine. Any, as we said, vaccine, any medication, it has potential side effects. There's nothing that you can say is 100% free from any risk. And in particular with this vaccination, it's new. So the potential side effects are still yet to be fully known. And the longer lasting immunity, how long will someone be immune to? Still yet to be fully known. However, the vaccination in question for COVID-19 that we have seen so far has been approved by the governing regulatory body. And this was based on what we spoke about, the rigorous scientific methodology, the analysis, the peer review. They would not approve of this if it hadn't have gone through this rigorous analysis, if they were not satisfied that it met certain criteria, that it was safe to use. Therefore, come back to the risk assessment, the balancing act. Ultimately, it is your decision. It is a personal decision. If you are asking me for my opinion from a medical standpoint, from what I know, from what I've researched, from the discussions I've had with colleagues in the field, my position currently is that if you are those that fall within the vulnerable, the high risk category, I would recommend this vaccination for you. The choice is yours. If you are those who do not fall within that category, well, the reality is the vaccination isn't yet available for you, and probably won't be for weeks, if not months to come. There are still other vaccinations that are awaiting approval as well. And so ultimately, this will be a case of us reviewing this decision when that time comes in the weeks and months to follow, when we have more data, when we can analyze the evidence at that point. And in the meantime then, to continue as we are, to continue taking the precautions, the face mask, hand washing, social distancing. And I pray that Allah protects us all. And at this point, I just wanted to say, to end with, a big thank you. Jazakumullah khairan to everyone who has followed the mosque guidance, the policy, the protocols, and allowed us to all come back and worship together safely and soundly. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. ربنا اجعلنا مقيم الصلاة من ذرياتنا ربنا وتقبل دعاء. يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. ربنا زدنا علما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. وسبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.